Hi, everybody. I'm Coach Geordie McConnell, head coach of Ottawa Swimming. I've been coaching swimming for 25 years now, and I'm excited tonight to share with you some of the things I've learned, and I'm still learning. So in a few years, I'll do this all again and share with you everything else new I've learned. So first of all, about Ottawa Swimming, we've got 14 different groups that swim in 6 different pools around Ottawa, and registration happens in August, and our season runs from October through June. In June, we have a little open water program as well to help people. And the most important thing for you to know about our programs is we have all levels. We have Start Smart, which is for people that are brand new to swimming, non-swimmers, those that want to build a stroke or rebuild a stroke. And then we have an advanced swim group, everything in between. On our website, you'll find all kinds of resources and videos and different text explanations. Our YouTube channel has lots of videos, and I hope that it will help you and anyone out there get a head start and move ahead, or also move ahead with their swimming. One of the most important aspects of technique in swimming, when you're learning at any level really, is you need to understand that a coach or self-coach needs to fit the technique to the swimmer. Don't fit the swimmer into one technique. Every body is different, every brain is different, and there are many, many right ways to swim. So don't expect yourself to all look like Michael Phelps here, okay? We can all hope, but it's not really going to happen for most of us. Many swimmers are limited by their first of all, their shape of their body, their build, their torso length, arm length, their mobility is a big one. Ankle mobility, shoulder mobility, neck mobility. And we're going to be talking about some of those limiters as the talk goes on. So what I want you to do is to try to find the best technique for you. Our Start Smart program is a great example of this, all about relaxing water. I take a lot of time, and the first goal, especially the first 8 weeks, is just get people to relax. But this goes with all swimmers. So when you're trying to learn a neuromuscular pattern, it will only really go into your brain and your neuromuscular system if you're relaxed. And so you need to be able to relax and think about the movement pattern, whatever the movement pattern is, in order for it to be retained. Even at the most advanced level, it's important. I always use the example of 100-meter sprinters. As a sprinter, they come out of the blocks and they power for 30 meters and then they relax. They're still going really fast and powerfully, but they're relaxed. So even advanced swimmers need to be able to do the movement pattern, but do it in a relaxed manner. When you're learning to do a movement pattern, be it sprinting, hurdles, or swimming, you need to have enough oxygen so your brain can process the signals that are coming in and taking those signals and grooving them into your neuromuscular system. So in order for that to happen, when you're drilling in the pool, don't drill hard. So if you're thinking about your entry, don't go hard, because if you come back from 50 meters of drilling and you touch the wall and you're breathing really hard, you're not maximizing the opportunity. So keep the exertion level low. And generally, when you're swimming, there's a big rule, and that is only swim as fast as you can swim well. I see it all the time. Swimmers will go slow and they'll be really efficient, and then they'll double their exertion level, but they'll barely go faster because they lose their technique. They're not rotating, they're crossing over. It's like throwing a parachute out there. So whenever you swim, be really, really patient and only swim as fast as you can swim well with the right technique, your best technique. Back to learners for a second here. One of the keys for learners with my methodology is fins. I do not know why the different protocols of teaching kids to swim don't all center on fins. They should. Fins in the feet and a board out back give you a chance to relax, and it allows you don't have to worry about sinking, and you can then focus and allow your brain to work on the different movement patterns. The fins also, we'll come to this more a little bit when we talk about kicking. One of the great aspects of fins, besides the fact that they make kick sets a whole lot more fun, is that they dynamically increase the mobility of your ankle. So stiff ankles, I already mentioned that, are a major limiter for swimming. And fins can really, really, really help that. I love having my swimmers swim slow. It's the hardest drill we do. So I'll have them do a super slow stroke rate. I'll have them count to 3 when their arms above the water and below. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Even the best swimmers, and usually the best swimmers, really, really struggle with that because they have a compensations. So what people do, or what we do when we go really slow, is they take away the possible compensations. So if you can swim really well slowly, then you have no compensations, you're perfectly balanced, and you'll be able to be a more effective swimmer and efficient swimmer when you speed up. So try it next time, even if there's not a coach who is forcing you to do it like me. There's some text questions coming through. I won't be looking at text questions. I'll be answering questions at the end, so please try to remember them. So the kick. The kick is not very important, but it is. So let's talk about propulsion. Propulsion when you're swimming comes from up here. Now, I'm speaking about endurance swimming generally. If you're looking to set a personal mark in the 50 meters, your kick is going to be very, very important. But generally, the vast majority of swimmers that I work with, 99.9%, want to swim long. They want to be able to swim for 300, 400, 4,000 meters. To propel yourself with a kick, it's 40% less efficient. So let me explain this in an example. If you had identical twins in a pool and they went down the pool 25 meters, one of them was just kicking with a board and the other was just pulling. So they had a pull buoy, piece of foam between their legs, and they weren't kicking at all. And they moved at the same speed, the kicker and the puller. Once they got to the end, the kicker will have burned 40% more energy. That's why we just want to use our kick for balance and a little bit of lift, unless you're going short. So if you're trying to swim 50 or 100 really hard, that kick comes in. But really, once you get over 100, you want to be very, very smart with your kick. Even if you look at some of the Olympic 1500 meter swimmers, they're doing a 2-beat kick, barely kicking at all. Which, to say this now about the kick doesn't mean not to work on your kick. It's really, really important to have a strong kick. Our advanced swimmers have a really strong kick so that when you use it, you get more bang for the buck. Our less experienced swimmers, we want it to be an efficient kick that doesn't cause too much drag. So we don't want our legs out there like this and causing, again, another parachute back there. We want them nice and tight. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. So the kick, like I said, it's important for in some ways, but in others it's not. And that's, we're going to go on and talk a little bit more about the kick now. A good little test that you can do for ankle mobility is to sit sit on the ground with your legs straight out front, and try to, if these are your toes, try to point your toes and see how far you can point them. Some people may have one ankle that's much more flexible than the other. Ankle injuries will do that to you. I know a swimmer who, again, imagine this is the top of the knee here. This is the leg out front and the toes. They can reach their toes over and touch the floor. They're that flexible. Runners, lifetime runners, I got bad news. No, not bad news for you. I got a red flag for you. You may have ankles that are a bit tight. It's very, very common. So the kick technique. When people come to me that haven't kicked before, here is what typically we will see. Well, here's what we think of it as a kick when we're kids, right? That's a kick, like that, like kicking a ball. But that's not what we want to do in the pool. Kicking in the swim comes from the hip. So it's more like a pendulum from the hip. And when I explain kicking to swimmers, to new swimmers especially, I say kick from the hip, don't bend the knee, and point the toe. Now, when I say don't bend the knee, don't think about bending the knee. The knee will bend slightly from the resistance of the water. So your typical kick will be hip drive, coming through, little bit of knee bend, finish with the foot, straight leg recovery. Like that. So over bending the knee too much, and I swear I'm going to design some kind of a tool that braces the knees to stop people from kicking too much. That's a big limiter. When our legs are back there and we're kicking a lot from the knee, we create a lot of drag behind us. It slows us right down. So keep the knees straight, meaning just allow the pressure of the water to bend the knee, and keep the feet tight. So we don't want to be out here. Again, we want our feet nice and tight. We don't want too big a range of motion. About 12 to 18 inches maximum range of motion. I often will say to swimmers to think that they're ripping a dive. They're diving in and trying to create a minimal amount of splash. So keeping their feet nice and straight. The cadence of the kick changes, as I've said already, with the distance of the swim. There is a video on our YouTube channel, Kick Rhythms, I think is what it's entitled. And I have a video there of a sprinter. And honestly, her legs are moving faster than I can count, just incredibly fast. That's a sprinter, 50 meters, 100 meters. But again, as we go longer, things go slower. I mentioned to you a moment ago about the 2-beat kick. So a 2-beat kick, if you imagine, as an arm comes in, the opposite leg kicks once, and then the other arm comes in, the opposite leg kicks once. So it looks like this: stroke, kick, stroke, kick, stroke, kick, stroke, kick. Very, very slow and very efficient. Balance, lift, not much propulsion, but also very, very efficient. I've talked about the fins. I cannot promote them enough. People that do my clinics and my Start Smart, I urge them to purchase fins. They'll use them. You'll use them the rest of your career, regardless as to how high a level you achieve. They're a lot of fun. I had somebody say this to me, one of my newer swimmers, say this to me the other day, that they help you to learn to kick well. Because this new swimmer is having trouble kicking without the fins on. And I'm just talking about the movement pattern. So they promote a good movement. Moving on now to body position. So body position, once we set the engine back here, the kick helps to power the learning of the swim and all the drills that you do to then start with body position. But we want to be horizontal. we don't want to be going through the water like this. We want to be as horizontal as possible, again, to decrease drag. But like I said, we don't want to increase drag, or we want to minimize the increase of drag as we speed up. So if you double your speed, you're quadrupling the drag force on your body. So remember I said, only swim as fast as you can swim well. This is what happens is people increase their stroke rate and their power, but they start to be a little wayward with their movement patterns, and there is like throwing a parachute out. So always stay streamlined, and if you can't stay streamlined, don't go faster. That's point one with body position. The body position is once the kick is established, it really is the most important aspect of swimming. So we're going to talk a little bit more about it, and really it's all in your head, as you can see this chap here. The default position for any swimmer I work with is with their eyes straight down when they're exhaling, or the face is in the water, straight down. On a rare occasion, there's a swimmer, just because of the shape of their body or their movement patterns and the way they move through the water, where I'll have them look forward slightly. But the vast majority of swimmers, recreational swimmers we're talking about here, are best off with their eyes looking straight down. But again, things change a little bit with speed. So if you're a sprinter and you're sprinting 50 meters or 100 meters and you're kicking hard out back, that kick is going to result in lift at the back. And in order to counterbalance it at the front, you need to look forward underwater ever so slightly. If you kick really, really hard out back, keep your head down, you'll end up submarining a little bit. That's only when you sprint or when you kick really, really hard out back. So the default position for most swimmers, here's what I'll say to you, is swim with your eyes straight down. If you're being coached, swim with your eyes straight down until your coach tells you not to, or you feel your feet are slapping the surface of the water. Your feet have to be in the water to have that effect when you kick. So, default position, head straight down when you're exhaling. One of the most valuable cues that I utilize with swimmers, and the hardest part about swimming, is rotating to breathe and getting the right head position. So, the big cue is that when you turn your head, you want to keep the crown of your head down and create a bow wave. In the next picture, we're going to see this. And your ideal position will result in there being water washing on your bottom goggle. If you see water on the bottom goggle, you know that your head is in close to, if not the ideal position. Another analogy I use is to imagine it's a bit disturbing. Imagine there's a spike coming over the top of your head, and we want that spike horizontal, pushing and pointing straight down the lane. A little bit more about body position, because it is very, very, very challenging. This is a great picture. I used to show this to all my swimmers. I have another one now that I show. It's over here. So you can see this guy here. He's got his head in the water. He's got a bow wave. I keep getting the wrong way here. No, I'm never going to be a weatherman. He creates a bow wave with his head, and after, there's a trough that he's breathing out of. And look at that bottom goggle. There's water washing on the bottom goggle. This trough happens even at relatively slow velocities. But yes, the faster you swim, the deeper the trough will be. When you're breathing, when you're working on breathing, I really urge you to breathe with from both sides. So breathing to both sides. If you only breathe to one side always, and you swim for many years, you'll have a neck muscular imbalance, and that can cause all kinds of problems. Everyone has a favorite side to breathe to, a side they're more comfortable, more balanced. Regardless of that, when you're swimming, try to do equal parts breathing to the bad side or the uncomfortable side and try to balance it out. Try to figure out what you're doing. I was working with a swimmer just 2 days ago. And when he breathes to the right, he looks straight to the side. But when he breathes to the left, he looks back. I shared that observation with him and he started working on it. He did a really good job at correcting it. So keep breathing equal parts if you can to both sides. We want to rotate. Imagine you've got a neck brace on, and we want to rotate together with the shoulders. Right? We don't want the head to go, shoulders go up, and then the head come over. So everything should happen at once. So try to keep things together. When your face is in the water, and this is something that newer swimmers, some newer swimmers struggle with, is their exhalation in the water. If you're swimming very slowly, sure, you can just let it go out very slowly. But as a swimmer, you need to develop different velocities, and you need to learn to be able to really push it out. And this allows you to have a variety of stroke rates. So it's not a natural skill, and it also will train your respiratory muscles because they generally, unless you are a professional balloon inflator, they are not necessarily all that strong. So there are a couple ways to exhale when your face is in the water. You can do a constant, slow exhalation. If you breathe out through the mouth, it'll come out through the nose as well, or you can just go out through the nose. Either is fine. So one small, continuous exhalation, which is probably the most common, or you can hold your breath and do a burst breath. So what that means is you come in, you hold, and then just as you're coming back up, you push it all out. And the theory here, and in practice for many swimmers, is because you forcefully exhale, there's a bit of a rebound effect, a bit of a vacuum effect. And some swimmers find that they get more air in. So remember about the bow wave, right? Remember, you've got to get the crown of the head down. I'll be honest with you, it's tough to learn for a lot of people because people don't like water in their mouth. They don't like certainly swallowing cool water and stuff. But getting the water in the mouth is kind of a learning process, right? And you need, it's a leap of faith. Get the head down. You know, here's something that I show my new swimmers is if you have the crown down and you're creating that bow wave and you got the trough here, the irony is if you lift your head a little bit and lose the bow wave in the trough, the water comes up closer to your mouth. So if you want more a clearer route to air, put the crown of your head down and create that bow wave, and you'll get that trough. But it is a challenging thing to learn. The side swim drill is a fantastic one. There's nothing else happening except you trying to figure out that head position. Rotation in the swim is important for many reasons. First of all, well, let me explain what we're talking about by rotation. I've already touched on it before. You want the shoulders to rotate 45 degrees maximum, unless you have mobility impairments. Some people end up rotating more if they have to because they have mobility impairments. And in order for them to find their correct swimming technique, they need to over-rotate. The hips rotate as well, often not as much as the shoulders. But it's this rotating from shoulder to shoulder and hip to hip that helps us to minimize our drag. The classic analogy is if you just swim flat and you don't rotate, you're like a barge pushing through the water. If you rotate, you're like a sailboat on a keel, slicing through the water. So the other thing that rotation does is it places your body in a circumstance that helps it to create more power with the pull. So when we're here and we engage the water, if we do it well, and it's comes with experience as a swimmer, this muscular tension can come through the arm, the lat, all the way through the core, and that whole system, that whole kinetic chain can help to produce the power. So that's another thing, another advantage of the rotation. One of the very most common limiters, I like the term limiters, by the way, as opposed to flaws. A limiter for a swimmer, one of the most common ones, is they'll always rotate enough to breathe because they have the promise of air there. So they're going to rotate to get their air. But what will happen, they'll get their air and then they'll come down and they won't rotate. So it'll be rotate, no rotate, rotate, no rotate. Whether you're inhaling or exhaling on one hip or the other, try to make it all even. An additional benefit of that, if you don't rotate, you lift this arm to recover, you got to lift it really hard, high, and bring it forward. This is not a great position for the shoulder. It's a lot easier to recover. It's a lot easier to recover if you're rotated, if the shoulders rotate. It's a lot easier on the shoulder. The other thing is the neck. So if we are not rotating, we're going to have to reach with the neck. No, that's not so good. So rotation, body rotation, and I've presented these in order of importance in my teaching, protocols and pedagogical approach. I did start with the kick, but that's only because it's the powerhouse that enables us to learn. So the stroke. Speed in the water is stroke length. So how far you travel with each stroke times stroke rate. First priority is to get a good, efficient, powerful stroke so you get good length. So it can be slow and powerful. Remember I talked about that super slow swimming? And then if you can maintain your technique and increase your stroke rate, then you're going to go really fast. Let's stop. Before we talk about the phases of the stroke, let's talk about the hands for a second. The worst hand position is like this, cupped. You're not going to get much surface. Okay? The next, well, equally bad is this, hands spread. Flat hands, not bad. Better is flat hands, fingers together, thumbs out. But the best position, and you can do this as you're watching this video, is just shake your fingers and relax them. That's your best hand position. There's small gaps between the fingers, but small enough that turbulence prevents the water from really getting through. So that learning to swim with a relaxed hand, without that pinky way out there, that gives you the greatest amount of surface. It's a challenging thing to learn, the relaxed hand position. So remember that fingers together, thumb out is a good one as well. So the stroke phases, there's 5 phases to the stroke. But first, I like to start at the finish. So the finish of the stroke is past the hip. So we don't want to pull out early. We don't want to pull out here. We want to be fully extended, and your thumb may even come close to brushing the middle of your thigh. The palm is facing back. We don't want to finish like that. We don't want to finish turned to the side. We want to finish with the palm facing back. And then the elbow leads the recovery. So we finish, we bend the elbow, the hand comes up, and The one thing I'll say about, well, it's more than one thing about recovery, but if you can have your elbow higher than your hand, that's key, because that relaxes the arm. If you come really high in recovery, you're going to activate all kinds of shoulder muscles and your muscles, and we don't want to. We want to be recovering. We want to be relaxing as we bring the hand forward. Don't worry about a really linear recovery, because again, that can inhibit the shoulder. You can allow just a little bit of semicircular movement in your recovery. That's fine if you're hypermobile. That's fine. Do know that if you're wearing a wetsuit to open water swim, this is going to be really hard. So get used to that in the first place. Your entry into the water. Your entry happens at half of the full arm's length. So we want to enter about right there. We open a hole with the fingers. All fingers go in at once, and we go under the surface, slightly forward. That movement loses the air off our hand, so that when we start to pull, we're pulling water and not air. If you see a trail of bubbles every time you pull, that means you're pulling too much air into the water. You want to enter a little earlier and extend a few inches forward. We also want to enter shoulder width apart. We don't want to come in here. We want to come in straight out from the shoulder. This crossover is one of the most common limiters swimmers have. They cross over, then their hip goes out, and they splay their kick. So they're swimming down the lane like this. Perhaps you've experienced it, or you've seen a swimmer who kicks like this and splays. They're almost certainly crossing over. The final thing about your entry is, as you come forward, position your arm so that your fingers are slightly below your wrist, which is slightly below your elbow and shoulder. We don't want to be up here, but it's so common, because people love to push down on the water. They love to start their stroke here because they feel powerful. Well, if you want to go up, then that's where you want to push. You want to push down, but we don't want to go. We want to go that way. So we want to be in a position to start our stroke, and that's the position, that slightly downsloped arm. That downslope is probably the most common limiter I see across all of the lanes, from the most experienced to the least experienced. The high elbow catch, as you can see in this diagram here. Warning, this is the hardest part about swimming. I know a two-time Olympic medalist who at the end of his career was still working on the catch. So be patient, it's a journey. But it does really, really increase your power. So instead of pulling like a pendulum, or instead of bending our elbow and leading with our elbow, having the elbow slicing through the water, what we want to do, ideally, is rotate, have the elbow looking out, and then create what we call early vertical forearm. So now, instead of just pulling with the hand, we're pulling with the full forearm. And we pull all the way with that big paddle until our elbow's at our side, and then we finish. So it's in, set, pull, and finish. The analogy I use, it's a safe one now because there's no snow on the ground. It traumatizes people otherwise. I mean, if you imagine there's a pile of snow there and you have a shovel, people don't just, in order to shovel, you don't just bang the shovel through the snow. You don't just bang the shovel through the snow. You gather the snow and you accelerate. Here's another of the advanced aspects of the high elbow catch and the pull. Slight tempo change. So if I was going to exaggerate the tempo, you come in, you gather the water, and then you accelerate. If you go too fast for the catch, you won't really catch the water. You won't gather it. This catch, ideally, it'll happen as far ahead of the body as possible. But that's really limited by your mobility. A lot of swimmers can't get their elbow that far in front of them. they'll be starting their pull from here. And that's perfectly fine. Work on your mobility, maybe increase it, then you'll have a longer pull. But getting that early vertical forearm is really one of the keys to advancing and becoming a powerful swimmer. But it's not easy. So be patient. One of my favorite drills to do, or one of my favorite tools, is a pull buoy. So if you know what a pull buoy is, it's a little piece of foam that goes between the legs, and it supports your legs. You keep your legs together, you don't kick. A band, an ankle band, little rubber band around, or a big rubber band around your ankles is even better. So what this does, I talked about how the kick helps to balance us. What this does is eliminates that balance. We have to be perfectly balanced from the waist up. And when you're swimming with a pull buoy and band, maybe paddles, and those legs can stay directly behind you and just rotate, then you have a perfectly balanced stroke. But what will happen when people first start doing this is they will be off balance and they won't rotate. They'll stay too flat. And the more you do it, the more balanced you'll become as a swimmer. And when you start bringing the kick back in, you're going to be an even better swimmer. So I highly recommend doing pull buoy band and maybe paddles as well. The paddles will increase your power. We'll talk about those just in a sec. Learning the different skills, it's just like this guy from Karate Kid, wax on, wax off. So you want to think about one thing at a time when you're swimming. Don't start swimming and think entry, catch, pull, recovery. Just think about one thing at a time, and then develop that and work on that, and slowly put everything together. When you're swimming, say you're doing a 400-meter easy swim, maybe every 25 or every 50, think about one element of your stroke. Check it out. See how you're doing. This is something that will go on, or could go on, if you enjoy that aspect of self-improvement. That's something that can go on for the rest of your life as a swimmer. You'll know, especially if you have coaching help, you'll know what your limiter is. Think, oh God, I better check my entry. My entry's too short. I gotta keep working on that, you know. When you're training, I'm talking about training as a swimmer now, and I will say to you that, and this is not, this sort of shows my background as a child. I was not in the competitive swim clubs. The reality for your recreational adult swimmer or triathlete is one really good quality swim every week can do miracles if you do it every week. But if you can get more frequent, shorter swims in, the more regularly you send that feedback through your neuromuscular system, the quicker you'll advance, and the more quickly the skill will develop. Very quickly, as an aside, I have the juggle example there. I have some friends who did an experiment. One person spent 2 hours trying to learn to juggle. The other person spent 10 minutes on 12 consecutive days. You know what happened? The 12 consecutive day person learned much more by the end of the period, and learned gone much further in the learning. So short doses really, really help. If you want to get fast, if you don't want to get really fit, 2, 3, maybe 4 swims. Oh, I've never done 4 swims in a week in my life, but so you can go a long way on one swim. Let me just say that. Okay, that's been mostly my practice in 35 years of triathlon, is 1 swim a week, 1 quality swim a week. But the more swims you do, especially if you enjoy it, get in the pool, have fun. Open water swimming is a whole new element, really so enjoyable, very social typically, and there are a number of skills: sighting, knowing where you're going, Settling, that means that if you are short of breath, anxious, maybe somebody has touched your feet or something, you need to be able to settle yourself down. Cornering around a buoy, again, dealing with contact. And the final thing is an advanced skill, and that's drafting, where you go behind another swimmer. So the world of open water swimming presents new challenges and new joy. Almost done, just a few more slides to go. One of the most common limiters for your recreational swimmer who can swim, who has pretty good technique, their limiter is strength. So trying to increase your muscular strength with paddles in the pool can definitely help. Let me just say about paddles, don't go with a big paddle. Go with a paddle that's just the size of your palm of your hand, because too big a paddle is going to put too much stress on your shoulder. When you use the paddle, try to only use the strap across the finger. Don't use the wrist strap, because it will then give you biofeedback. If that paddle turns off your hand, that's because your hand is going the wrong direction. As you enter, you should be able to hold that paddle on your hand, on your palm, with the pressure of the water. Okay. Dryland training, resist-to-band work, strength work in a gym environment or such, personal trainer, will make a big difference. Not only will it make a big difference in your power as a swimmer, but also in your mobility. So mobility is enormous. We're not all super freakishly mobile like some swimmers, but making sure your pectoral muscles, there's a video that we have about the most important exercises a swimmer can do. Making sure your pectoral muscles have fairly good mobility and they're not too tight. It's a huge one. That's where a lot of shoulder injuries come from. The touch your back test, you can do this after the seminar to do a quick check. Put one hand behind your back, see if you can touch it, or try to measure how far apart those fingers are, and then do it the other way. You will have initially gone with your most flexible side. Everyone does. And then try it the other way and measure how far apart those fingers are if they're not touching. Work on your mobility, do that test. Try to make sure it's balanced. Muscular activation, this is something I recommend all swimmers do before they swim, which is to activate their scapular muscles. So you just squeeze them. You just bring your elbows out and squeeze them. You can do that. You can do this. And you can also rotate like that. So activating those scapular muscles will help to enhance your performance and also help to slightly decrease the likelihood of injury. I love swimming, love coaching swimming, and I love what swimming presents for you. This week, I was challenging my swimmers. I'm always challenging my swimmers. This time of year, in the start of the season, especially with the learners, I treat them as princesses. At this time of year, I treat them as prisoners. My tone changes. I push them a little harder, and I find new ways to discomfort them so that they can overcome those challenges. So try to do that for yourself. The self-talk, learning the self-talk, learning to recover in the pool by spinning over on your back and looking at the ceiling. I call it cloud counting. And recovering, imagining you're in the middle of the lake, being able to recover without putting your feet down. All of these skills help to improve your mental strength and confidence in the pool. But to finish, I just want to say again that swimming is so good for us, body and our brain. Neuroplasticity, get that slide on there. Our brain, it can learn to rewire itself throughout our life. And swimming, it fires the synapses in your brain, especially as you're learning. Individuals that are recovering from brain injury, or they're dealing with Parkinson's, recovering from stroke, all of these things help. If an individual has mental health problems, swimming is just moving meditation. It's just you and bubbles and your voice. That's it. So you just need to think about the self-talk. You need to be able to relax. You need to think about your breathing. It's moving meditation. It's so, so good for us. So I encourage you to pursue a lifetime of swimming. And if you have any questions, you can email me, Geordie at ottawaswimming.ca. Thank you for watching this video.